Imagine a king who once stood at the pinnacle of power. A man whose sword and faith made every enemy tremble in fear. But now, he is old, weak, and unable to dispelling the bone-chilling cold, even surrounded by the thickest blankets. A strange decision was made, not to appoint an official. Not to mobilize a general, but to bring in a beautiful young virgin. Pallas. But she is not a queen, nor is she human. She came only to care for and keep warm the dying king. And why her? And what made her presence the center of a plot full of intrigue and deep meaning? Today, we will delve into the life of Abishag. A rarely mentioned figure who played an irreplaceable role in the last days of King David. Her story is not only a reminder of the small roles, but also a lesson about faith, loyalty, and the true value of service. You will be surprised to know that from this seemingly humble presence, great lessons have been learned, lessons that can change the way you view your own life. Abishag's story begins in the quiet town of Shunem. Modest and serene, far removed from the splendor and bustle of Jerusalem. Shunem, nestled in Israel's fertile northern lands, embodies simplicity and a pace of life untouched by the political machinations of the royal court. Abishag was not a noble woman, nor was she influential in her community. Instead, she was a young woman whose life revolved around ordinary things. A complete contrast to the grandeur and intrigue awaiting her in King David's palace. When Abishag was chosen to serve the ailing King David, it was not due to her social standing or connections, but because of her purity, youth, and beauty, qualities that symbolized vitality and hope in the twilight of David's reign. Her presence in the palace marked a significant transition in Israel's monarchy, as the kingdom prepared to move from David's leadership to that of his son Solomon. In this context, Abishag was more than just a caregiver. She became a silent witness to an era of change, embodying the tension between a fading past and an uncertain future. Abishag's story is a poignant reminder that even the humblest beginnings do not preclude extraordinary roles in the grand tapestry of history. She was neither a warrior like David nor a political schemer like Adonijah. But her presence at the king's side would ultimately influence events of great significance. This universal truth resonates with countless historical examples of individuals from modest origins, who found themselves at the heart of transformative events. Consider Helen Keller. A woman who began life profoundly disabled yet went on to inspire the world with her advocacy for the disabled and her eloquence in addressing global audiences. Like Abishag, Helen Keller's role transcended her circumstances, showing how God can work through anyone, regardless of their limitations or beginnings. To illustrate the broader relevance of Abishag's story, one might consider the quiet yet monumental impact of figures like Rosa Parks and Malala Yousafzai. Rosa Parks, a seamstress in Montgomery, Alabama, sparked a national civil rights movement not with grand speeches or political office but with a single, courageous act of defiance. Refusing to surrender her bus seat to a white passenger. Her quiet courage, much like Abishag's presence at court, catalyzed monumental change, demonstrating the power of individual resolve. Similarly, Malala Yousafzai's rise from a small-town girl in Pakistan to a global advocate for education and women's rights mirrors Abishag's unassuming beginnings. Surviving a brutal attack, Malala became a symbol of resilience and the transformative power of purpose. Her story, like Abishag's, highlights how God often works through the unlikely to achieve extraordinary outcomes. Abishag's introduction into the royal court brought further complexity to an already fraught environment. At the time, King David's health was deteriorating, and the question of succession grew increasingly urgent. His weakness made him more of a symbolic figure than an active ruler, and Abishag's role as his caretaker placed her close to power. A position carrying significance far beyond her immediate duties. This situation draws a parallel to the life of Princess Diana, whose entry into the British royal family similarly introduced a young woman to a powerful, established monarchy. Like Abishag, Diana became a bridge between tradition and modernity, navigating intense scrutiny and becoming a symbol of hope and renewal in her own right. Although Abishag's duties were strictly caretaking, her proximity to David made her a key figure in the court's political games. Adonijah's later request to marry her was not motivated by affection but by strategy. In ancient cultures, marrying a concubine or close associate of a former king was often a claim to the throne, an attempt to inherit power and legitimacy. This political maneuvering is reminiscent of corporate power plays in today's world, where symbolic gestures can carry enormous weight. Consider the succession planning at Apple. As the company transitioned leadership from Steve Jobs to Tim Cook, the stakes were high, and every decision, like those involving figures close to power, held deep implications for the future of the organization. Abishag's story is a timeless reminder that even if we do not seek positions of influence, our roles in pivotal moments can have lasting impacts. Her journey from the countryside of Shunem to the palace teaches us that life often takes unexpected turns, placing us in situations that demand resilience, adaptability, and faith in God's purpose. Her story also underscores the value of dignity and integrity when facing power. Despite being caught in the court's political turbulence, Abishag maintained her role with grace, embodying loyalty and service rather than ambition. This principle resonates with the story of Mother Teresa, whose life of quiet service to the poor left an indelible mark on humanity. Like Abishag, Mother Teresa demonstrated that humility and steadfastness can profoundly shape the world. Abishag's story challenges the notion that influence must be grand or conspicuous. Her life proves that the quiet power of presence, simply being there in moments of need, can shape outcomes in ways we may not immediately recognize. This concept finds resonance in everyday heroes. Teachers who shape young minds, nurses who bring comfort to the ill, and volunteers who selflessly serve their communities. Consider the legacy of Fred Rogers, affectionately known as Mr. Rogers. Through his television program, he offered simple yet profound messages of kindness and acceptance, influencing generations. Like Abishag, Mr. Rogers demonstrated that even small acts of presence and consistency can ripple outward to create meaningful change. At the heart of Abishag's story is an affirmation of God's providence. She did not seek her role in the palace, yet God placed her there at a crucial moment in Israel's history. Her story reminds us to trust in God's love and plan, knowing that He provides grace perfectly suited to each circumstance. This truth echoes in the life of Nelson Mandela, who endured decades of imprisonment before emerging as a leader who would unite a divided South Africa. Mandela's unwavering faith in his purpose mirrors the quiet trust Abishag displayed, showing that God equips us for the roles we are meant to play, even in the face of uncertainty or hardship. Abishag's life, though understated, is a profound testimony to the ways God works through ordinary people to accomplish His extraordinary plans. Her story invites us to embrace our unique roles with faith and courage, trusting that God's providence will guide us and that our quiet acts of service can leave a lasting impact on the world. Abishag's story of quiet service and unexpected significance showcases how ordinary lives can intersect with God's extraordinary plans. Taken from the simplicity of Shunem, her life is a testament to how seemingly mundane roles can become pivotal moments in the grand narrative of divine providence. Centuries later, another woman from Shunem, the Shunammite woman, would demonstrate how acts of faith and hospitality could lead to miracles and spiritual transformation. These two women, though separated by time, reveal profound lessons on the power of humility, trust, and faith in God's timing. The Shunammite woman's story, as told in 2 Kings 4 verses 8 to 37, begins with an act of selfless hospitality. She and her husband lived simple lives in Shunem, but her discernment recognized Elisha as a prophet of God. With no expectation of reward, she persuaded her husband to create a small room for Elisha to rest whenever he passed through. This gesture, while modest, became the foundation for miraculous blessings that would change her life. Elisha, moved by her generosity, prophesied that she would bear a son despite her advanced age. The prophecy was fulfilled, and the Shunammite woman experienced the joy of motherhood. Yet, her faith was truly tested when her son fell ill and died unexpectedly. Refusing to accept this as the final chapter, she sought out Elisha with unwavering determination. Her persistent faith moved Elisha to intercede, and through divine intervention, her son was miraculously restored to life. This story illustrates the profound ripple effect of simple acts of faith and service. The Shunammite woman's willingness to create a small space for God's work brought blessings beyond her imagination. Similarly, Abishag's quiet role in King David's life highlights how faithfulness in seemingly ordinary circumstances can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Both Abishag and the Shunammite woman were born into humble circumstances in Shunem, a town far removed from centers of power or religious influence. They were not prophets or rulers but ordinary women whose actions became crucial to God's plans. Their lives demonstrate that greatness is not a matter of status or wealth but of faith and service. This theme resonates through history. Harriet Tubman, born into slavery and denied basic human rights, became a symbol of courage and freedom. Despite her humble beginnings, Tubman relied on her faith to lead countless individuals to safety through the Underground Railroad. Her life exemplifies how God uses those who seem powerless to create profound change. Another parallel is Mahatma Gandhi, born into a modest family in India. Through his humility and commitment to non-violence, Gandhi became a global symbol of justice and peace. Like the women of Shunem, Gandhi's faith in a higher purpose enabled him to lead transformative movements, reminding us that ordinary people can change the world. Hospitality lies at the heart of the Shunammite woman's story. Her willingness to make room for Elisha reflected a heart attuned to God's work and open to his purposes. Acts of hospitality, though often overlooked, hold transformative power that can impact lives far beyond their initial intention. Consider the legacy of Fred Rogers, known to millions as Mr. Rogers. Through his television program, he created a space of warmth, kindness, and understanding, fostering a sense of belonging for children around the world. Like the Shunammite woman, Rogers understood the power of opening one's heart and home, whether physical or metaphorical, to nurture and inspire others. Their stories reveal how acts of hospitality can create environments where miracles, both big and small, can unfold. One of the most compelling aspects of the Shunammite woman's story is her unwavering faith during her darkest hour, the death of her son. Rather than surrendering to despair, she sought out Elisha, trusting in God's ability to restore life. Her faith was active and persistent, mirroring the quiet resilience of Abishag, who stepped into an uncertain and pivotal role in King David's court. This kind of faith is reflected in the life of Corrie ten Boom, a Dutch woman who hid Jewish refugees during the Holocaust. Despite being captured and imprisoned in a concentration camp, her unshakable trust in God sustained her. Like the Shunammite woman, Corrie ten Boom's courage and faith during times of unimaginable hardship became a testimony to the power of divine grace. Abishag's role, though less dramatic than the Shunammite woman's, carried immense significance. By serving King David in his final days, she became a bridge between the past and the future, facilitating the transition to Solomon's reign. Her presence required humility, patience, and a deep trust in God's providence. These parallels underscore a profound truth. God often works through the ordinary, whether in acts of quiet service or bold hospitality. The lives of Abishag and the Shunammite woman demonstrate that faithfulness in small tasks can align us with divine purposes. The stories of Abishag and the Shunammite woman highlight the importance of trusting in God's plan, even when our roles seem insignificant. They remind us that small actions, done in faith, can carry eternal significance. Their lives challenge us to embrace the roles God has given us with humility and trust, knowing that His providence is at work even in the smallest details. This principle is beautifully reflected in the life of Mother Teresa, who devoted her life to serving the poorest of the poor in Kolkata. Like the women of Shunem, Mother Teresa trusted that simple acts of love and care were deeply significant in God's eyes. Her life illustrates that no service is too small to be part of God's greater plan. Another modern example is Jackie Robinson, whose courage in breaking baseball's racial barriers inspired a generation to challenge injustice. Robinson's perseverance mirrored the faith and determination of the Shunamite woman and Abishag, showing how trust in God can empower us to create lasting change. The lives of Abishag and the Shunamite woman are timeless reminders of how faith and service, no matter how ordinary, intersect with God's extraordinary purposes. Their stories challenge us to view our own lives through the lens of trust and humility, knowing that even the smallest actions can carry divine weight. In our daily lives, we may be called to roles that feel insignificant or unseen. Yet these stories encourage us to embrace these moments with faith, trusting that God's providence is at work. Whether through quiet acts of kindness, steadfast service, or unwavering faith in times of hardship, we too can become instruments of His grace. Their legacies invite us to reflect. How can we, like Abishag and the Shunammite woman, trust in God's providence and embrace the opportunities to serve others? How can we open our hearts, knowing that even small acts can carry eternal significance? These questions remind us that our lives, though ordinary in appearance, are threads in the grand tapestry woven by the hands of a loving Creator. By trusting in His plan, we can find the courage to fulfill our unique roles with faith and purpose. Tamar's story is a riveting testament to resilience, courage, and an unwavering determination to pursue justice. While her actions stand in stark contrast to Abishag's quiet service, they share a common purpose, ensuring the continuity of God's covenant. Tamar's boldness exemplifies proactive faith, showing that divine plans often require extraordinary and unconventional actions. Together, Tamar and Abishag illuminate two complementary aspects of faithfulness: courageous intervention and humble dedication, each playing a pivotal role in God's unfolding purposes. The story of Tamar, detailed in Genesis 38, begins with a series of devastating challenges that tested her character and faith. Tamar was married to Er, Judah's eldest son, who died without leaving an heir. In accordance with the Levirate marriage tradition, it became Onan's duty, as Er's brother, to marry Tamar and produce a child to carry on the family lineage. However, Onan, motivated by greed and selfishness, deliberately refused to fulfill this obligation. His disobedience angered God, resulting in his untimely death. Judah, now fearful of losing another son, withheld his youngest, Shelah, from Tamar, leaving her in a state of vulnerability and uncertainty. Stripped of her husband, children, and social security, Tamar faced the prospect of a bleak and isolated future. Yet, despite being marginalized, Tamar refused to give up. Her faith in God's covenant and her determination to ensure its fulfillment fueled her resolve. Tamar took a bold step, disguising herself and confronting Judah in a manner that led to the birth of Perez, an ancestor of King David and Jesus Christ. Her daring and unconventional actions safeguarded the continuity of Judah's lineage and underscored an essential truth. Faith often demands action, even when it defies societal norms. Tamar's boldness resonates with countless modern stories of ordinary people who challenged societal norms with courage and faith. Consider Oprah Winfrey, whose journey from poverty and abuse to becoming a global icon is a testament to resilience. Raised in humble beginnings, Oprah's unwavering belief in her calling enabled her to break barriers in media, empowering countless others to pursue their dreams. Like Tamar, Oprah demonstrated that determination, coupled with faith, can transform lives and inspire generations. Similarly, Brian Stevenson, the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, reflects Tamar's spirit of justice. Through his legal advocacy for marginalized communities and wrongfully convicted individuals, Stevenson has tackled systemic injustice with relentless determination. His boldness in confronting deeply ingrained inequities mirrors Tamar's courage in seeking justice and preserving what is right, despite overwhelming odds. Tamar's story demonstrates that faith is not merely passive trust but an active engagement with God's promises, even in the face of adversity. Her willingness to risk her reputation to preserve Judah's lineage reflects an unshakable commitment to God's greater plan. This trust is echoed in the life of Bethany Hamilton, a professional surfer who, after losing her arm in a shark attack, returned to the sport with unyielding faith. Hamilton's journey of overcoming physical and emotional challenges reflects Tamar's persistence and trust in God's providence. Despite her circumstances, Hamilton's faith allowed her to inspire others to persevere through their own adversities, proving that faith and determination can triumph over seemingly insurmountable challenges. Tamar's actions were not driven by personal ambition but by her understanding of her role in God's covenant. By ensuring the continuation of Judah's lineage, she played a critical role in fulfilling God's promises to Abraham. Her story highlights the importance of continuity in God's divine plan, even when the path requires bold and unconventional choices. This principle resonates in the life of Chesley Sully Sullenberger, the pilot who safely landed U.S. Airways Flight 1549 on the Hudson River after a catastrophic engine failure. Sully's calm and decisive actions preserved the lives of all aboard, reminding us of the vital role individuals play in ensuring the continuation of a greater plan. Like Tamar, his ability to act boldly in a moment of crisis demonstrates the profound impact of trusting in preparation and purpose. While Tamar's story is characterized by decisive and daring action, Abishag's narrative is one of quiet service during a critical period of transition. Tamar's boldness contrasts with Abishag's humility. Yet both women played indispensable roles in God's plan. Their lives exemplify the multifaceted nature of faithfulness, showing that both courageous intervention and quiet dedication are vital in advancing God's purposes. This duality can be compared to the contributions of Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth. Douglass, with his eloquent writings and speeches, represents bold action, much like Tamar, while Truth's quieter but powerful advocacy for abolition and women's rights mirrors Abishag's steady resolve. Both figures demonstrate that different approaches to faithfulness and justice can work together to achieve profound change. Tamar's story challenges us to act boldly in the face of injustice, trusting in God's plan even when the path seems uncertain. Her willingness to confront societal norms inspires us to embrace courage and conviction in our own lives. This lesson is reflected in the work of Jane Goodall, who despite initial skepticism, devoted her life to studying and advocating for the conservation of chimpanzees and their habitats. Like Tamar, Goodall acted with unwavering conviction, challenging conventional norms in her field and becoming a global symbol of perseverance and hope. Tamar's relevance endures in a world that still demands courage and faith to confront systemic challenges. Her story reminds us that God's purposes often unfold through individuals willing to step outside their comfort zones and act with boldness. Consider LeBron James, whose impact extends far beyond basketball. Through his philanthropy and the opening of the I Promise School for at-risk youth, James has embodied Tamar's spirit of ensuring legacy and continuity. His dedication to empowering others highlights the profound influence of combining faith with action to create lasting change. Tamar's boldness ensured the preservation of a lineage that would lead to Jesus Christ, underscoring the power of courage and faith in shaping history. Her story challenges us to recognize the significance of our actions and to trust in God's providence, knowing that even the boldest steps are part of His greater plan. This principle is evident in countless lives, from individuals advocating for change in their communities to global leaders championing justice. Tamar's legacy invites us to embrace our roles with faith, courage, and humility, trusting that God's grace will guide us through trials and triumphs. By stepping boldly into our callings and trusting in divine providence, we too can leave a lasting impact, ensuring that God's purposes continue to unfold for generations to come. Tamar's story teaches us that faith, when combined with action, can turn even the most challenging circumstances into opportunities for extraordinary outcomes. The story of Abishag's connection to King David places her at the epicenter of one of Israel's most turbulent power struggles. Her seemingly passive role became a focal point in the intense political maneuvering surrounding David's succession. Adonijah's calculated request to marry Abishag was not motivated by love, but by an ambitious attempt to stake his claim to the throne. Solomon's swift and decisive response to this gambit not only secured his reign, but also revealed the complexities of power dynamics in ancient Israel. Abishag's story is a lens through which we can examine the intricate interplay of personal ambition, divine providence, and human decision-making. Abishag's introduction to King David's court came at a time of vulnerability and transition. As the king aged and his physical health declined, his inability to fulfill his traditional role as an active ruler created a vacuum ripe for political intrigue. Abishag, chosen for her youth, beauty, and purity, was brought into David's service ostensibly to provide comfort and warmth. However, her proximity to the ailing monarch made her a silent but pivotal figure in the court's shifting power dynamics. In the culture of the time, proximity to the king symbolized influence. Abishag's presence at David's side during his final days conferred a unique symbolic power, making her a target in the power struggle that erupted upon David's death. This placed her in a delicate position. She was both a caretaker and a figure through whom political legitimacy could be claimed. Abishag's role, while seemingly passive, was emblematic of the tensions between tradition and transition, a bridge between the reign of David and the emerging era of Solomon. Adonijah, one of David's older sons, was emboldened by the king's frailty. Despite knowing that Solomon had been chosen by David to succeed him, a decision reinforced by God's promise, Adonijah declared himself king. He gathered support from influential figures, including Joab, the commander of David's army, and Abiathar, the priest. This coalition lent weight to his claim, but it also revealed his willingness to defy divine will and family unity for personal ambition. After Solomon's ascension to the throne, Adonijah's ambitions did not wane. His request to marry Abishag was a calculated move. In ancient Near Eastern cultures, marrying a concubine or close associate of a deceased king was a symbolic claim to the king's power and authority. By seeking Abishag's hand, Adonijah hoped to position himself as a legitimate contender for the throne, leveraging her connection to David as a tool for his political aspirations. The subtlety of this maneuver underscores the cunning nature of political ambition, where even seemingly innocent gestures can mask deeper intentions. Solomon's swift and strategic response. Solomon, though young, displayed remarkable political acumen. When Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, brought Adonijah's request to him, perhaps unaware of its full implications, Solomon immediately recognized the danger. He interpreted the request as an act of subversion, a thinly veiled challenge to his authority. Solomon's decision to have Adonijah executed was swift and final, a clear message that any attempts to undermine his reign would be met with decisive action. This moment highlights the political realities of the time. Solomon's actions were not merely about personal survival. They were about safeguarding the stability of the kingdom and honoring God's promise. By neutralizing Adonijah's threat, Solomon ensured that his reign began on a foundation of strength and legitimacy, reinforcing his role as a divinely chosen leader. His response also reflects a broader principle, that wisdom, discernment, and timely action are critical in navigating moments of crisis and transition. Abishag's story and the political intrigues surrounding her echo power struggles throughout history. Consider the case of Princess Diana and the British royal family. Diana's marriage to Prince Charles placed her at the center of a complex web of tradition, public scrutiny, and internal family dynamics. though her role was not explicitly political. Her influence and symbolism as the people's princess had profound effects on public perception of the monarchy. Much like Abishag's role in the court of David. In the corporate world, power transitions often involve calculated moves and alliances. Jeff Bezos's transition out of the CEO role at Amazon, passing leadership to Andy Jassy, represents a modern example of succession planning where influence, continuity, and vision play critical roles. Like Solomon, Bezos ensured that the transition was smooth, safeguarding the stability and future of the organization. Abishag's story also sheds light on the role of women in political struggles. Though her voice is not recorded in the biblical narrative, her presence carried significant symbolic weight. Women in such positions often became pawns in larger political games, their agency constrained by societal structures. Yet, their roles were pivotal in shaping the outcomes of these struggles. This dynamic is mirrored in figures like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, whose quiet but steadfast advocacy for gender equality reshaped American law. While Ginsburg operated within a constrained judicial framework, her influence was profound, much like Abishag's silent but symbolic presence. Similarly, Hillary Clinton's role as First Lady, Senator, and Secretary of State demonstrates how women can navigate complex power dynamics to leave lasting legacies, even in the face of intense scrutiny. The events surrounding Abishag and the succession struggle highlight timeless lessons about ambition, loyalty, and divine providence. Solomon's decisive response to Adonijah's maneuvering demonstrates the importance of wisdom and discernment in leadership. It also underscores the necessity of aligning human decisions with divine will. Leaders, like Solomon, must possess the courage to act decisively while remaining anchored in a higher purpose. Abishag's story invites reflection on the ways individuals, even in seemingly passive roles, can become pivotal in moments of transition. Her experience reminds us of the importance of trusting in God's providence, even when circumstances place us in challenging or uncertain situations. Her silent service underscores the truth that even the quietest roles can carry profound significance in the unfolding of divine plans. Abishag's role in the court of King David was marked by silence and service. Yet her story is a powerful reminder of how God's purposes unfold through ordinary individuals. The succession conflict underscores the tension between human ambition and divine sovereignty. Solomon's ability to navigate this tension, relying on wisdom granted by God, offers a model for facing complex challenges with faith and courage. This theme resonates with the life of Mahatma Gandhi, whose reliance on spiritual principles and nonviolent resistance transformed India's struggle for independence. Like Solomon, Gandhi's leadership was marked by discernment, faith, and a commitment to justice, proving that humility and wisdom are powerful tools in overcoming even the greatest challenges. Abishag's story is not merely about political intrigue. It is a testament to the enduring truths of faith, service, and the sovereignty of God's plan. Her connection to King David placed her at the heart of a pivotal moment in Israel's history, where divine providence guided the course of events. In our own lives, Abishag's story challenges us to remain faithful and trust in God's timing, even when we find ourselves caught in the midst of larger struggles. Just as Solomon acted decisively to uphold God's promises, we are called to act with wisdom and courage in the face of adversity, knowing that God's grace is sufficient for every challenge. Through faith, we too can become instruments of His purposes, shaping the world around us in ways that transcend our understanding. Abishag's story transcends its historical context, offering timeless lessons about the intersection of personal roles, political dynamics, and the overarching providence of God. Her seemingly peripheral role as King David's caretaker unexpectedly became pivotal during one of the most consequential succession crises in Israel's history. Adonijah's strategic attempt to marry Abishag was a calculated move, not of affection, but of ambition. Solomon's decisive response protected his reign and underscored his reliance on divine guidance to secure the kingdom's stability. Through this narrative, we see how individuals, often perceived as insignificant, can be agents of profound change. Abishag's introduction into King David's court was marked by her selection for her youth, beauty, and purity. While her role appeared simple, providing care for an aging king, it carried unintended political significance. Proximity to a king often symbolized influence. And Abishag became a silent but powerful presence in a court fraught with tension. This echoes the story of Frances Perkins, the first woman to serve in a U.S. presidential cabinet. Initially seen as a quiet and reserved figure, Perkins profoundly shaped American labor laws, including Social Security. Much like Abishag, Perkins leveraged her seemingly understated position to effect transformative changes, illustrating how humility combined with resolve can alter the course of history. Adonijah's ambition was apparent even before David's death. He proclaimed himself king without his father's endorsement, disregarding David's expressed will that Solomon would succeed him. After failing to seize the throne through direct action, Adonijah resorted to a subtler approach, requesting Abishag's hand in marriage. This request carried cultural and political weight, as marrying a royal consort was often a symbolic assertion of authority and legitimacy. His calculated move, however, lacked wisdom and discernment. This failure to recognize the broader implications of his actions mirrors the story of Percy Spencer, the inventor of the microwave oven. While Spencer stumbled upon microwave technology by accident, his ability to recognize its potential transformed his discovery into a global innovation. Unlike Adonijah, Spencer's success lay in his ability to adapt and learn from circumstances, rather than letting blind ambition dictate his actions. Solomon's response to Adonijah's request was swift and decisive. He understood the symbolic implications of such a union and acted firmly to protect the kingdom's stability. By ordering Adonijah's execution, Solomon demonstrated a balance of wisdom and resolve. This was not an act of cruelty but a necessary step to preserve the integrity of his reign and uphold God's will. This strategic decisiveness reminds us of Howard Schultz, who transformed Starbucks into a global icon. Schultz faced tough decisions, such as closing unprofitable stores during the company's downturn, but his leadership preserved and expanded Starbucks' legacy. Similarly, Solomon's actions ensured the kingdom's stability while honoring God's divine plan for Israel. Abishag's story underscores the profound impact of seemingly small roles. Her presence, though passive, became instrumental in shaping the kingdom's future. This invites us to reflect on the often overlooked significance of our own positions and actions. Consider Jane Goodall, who began her career quietly observing chimpanzees in the forests of Tanzania. Her groundbreaking research reshaped humanity's understanding of animal behavior and conservation. Like Abishag, Goodall's initial role appeared modest, but her dedication and insight had far-reaching implications, proving that even small beginnings can lead to monumental change. Abishag's experience highlights the significant yet often understated contributions of women in moments of transition. Though her voice is absent from the biblical narrative, her symbolic presence influenced decisions of monumental importance. This resonates with the story of Helen Keller, who overcame the challenges of being both blind and deaf to become an advocate for people with disabilities. Keller's life exemplifies the power of persistence and the impact of using one's position, however constrained, to inspire change. Similarly, Abishag's quiet role in a politically charged environment illustrates how women's contributions, even in silence, can shape history. Abishag's story is a testament to God's providence working through seemingly ordinary circumstances. Every element, from her selection as David's caretaker to Solomon's handling of the succession crisis, demonstrates God's hand guiding events toward his greater purpose. This reminds us to trust in God's plan, even when situations seem uncertain or challenging. The life of Nick Vujicic is a modern example of faith in action. Born without arms or legs, Vujicic became a motivational speaker, inspiring millions with his message of hope and perseverance. Like Abishag, logistic circumstances seemed limiting, but his faith and trust in God transformed his challenges into a powerful testimony of divine grace. Lessons in leadership and faith. The story of Solomon's rise to power, with Abishag at its center, provides profound lessons in leadership. Solomon's ability to discern the deeper implications of Adonijah's request and act decisively reflects the importance of wisdom, courage, and reliance on divine guidance. In a similar vein, J.K. Rowling faced rejection and adversity before creating the Harry Potter series. Her perseverance and creative vision turned a modest idea into a global phenomenon. Like Solomon, Rowling's journey illustrates that leadership, whether in governance or creativity, requires faith, determination, and the ability to navigate challenges with clarity in purpose. Abishag's story highlights the power of quiet influence in moments of great change. While she did not wield authority or voice her opinions, her presence shaped the political landscape of Israel. This invites us to consider the often overlooked impact of our own presence in the lives of others. The story of Fred Rogers, affectionately known as Mr. Rogers, is a testament to this principle. Through his gentle demeanor and simple yet profound messages, Rogers transformed the lives of countless children and adults, teaching kindness and empathy. Like Abishag, Rogers demonstrated that quiet influence can have a transformative effect on individuals and communities. At its core, Abishag's story is about trusting in God's providence. Her role, though unassuming, was part of a divine plan that ensured the stability of Israel's monarchy. This truth invites us to place our faith in God, knowing that He works through all circumstances to accomplish His purposes. The journey of Bethany Hamilton, a professional surfer who lost her arm in a shark attack, reflects this faith. Despite her injury, Hamilton pursued her passion, becoming a symbol of resilience and determination. Her story reminds us, like Abishag's, that God's grace is sufficient, even in the face of life's most challenging moments. Abishag's story is a timeless reminder of the power of faith, humility, and God's providence. Her presence during a critical transition in Israel's history illustrates that no role is too small when aligned with God's greater plan. Through her life, we learn that even the most unassuming actions can have far-reaching consequences, shaping the course of history and leaving a legacy of faith for generations to come. This enduring truth calls us to embrace our own roles, trusting that God's love and guidance will equip us for every challenge. Whether through acts of service, quiet influence, or bold leadership, we can contribute to His plan, knowing that our efforts are never in vain when placed in His hands. Abishag's legacy encourages us to live with faith, humility, and confidence in God's unfailing providence. Abishag's story resonates with a profound truth that speaks to the core of human purpose: our worth is not measured by recognition or power, but by faithfulness in fulfilling the roles entrusted to us. She did not seek fame, influence, or accolades. Instead, she served quietly, fulfilling what was asked of her with unwavering dedication. Her story serves as a reminder that the significance of our contributions often lies far beyond what we can see, rippling outward in ways we may never fully understand. In a world that often equates value with visibility, it is easy to feel insignificant when our efforts seem unnoticed. Yet Abishag's life challenges this notion. Like the invisible thread that holds a tapestry together, her seemingly small role had a profound impact on the grand narrative of Israel's history. Her presence during King David's final days symbolized stability, and her story became a pivotal chapter in the transition of power. It teaches us that even the humblest contributions can be critical in supporting larger purposes. A grocery store clerk once shared how they felt invisible, scanning items and bagging groceries day after day. But one customer later returned to thank them, explaining that their simple, consistent smile and kind words had been a lifeline during a personal crisis. That moment illuminated the power of small, faithful actions, just as Abishag's quiet service carried eternal significance. Such stories remind us that even unnoticed contributions can profoundly shape the lives of others. This truth compels us to reevaluate the way we perceive our roles and efforts. Every action, no matter how small, has the potential to reinforce and uphold something greater. Quiet acts of service, unnoticed kindnesses, and steadfast commitments often form the foundation of enduring legacies. Abishag's life is a testament to the eternal significance of these roles, encouraging us to approach our duties with faith and perseverance, even when their immediate impact is unclear. Her story also challenges us to trust in the unseen, to have faith that our actions, when rooted in love and integrity, are woven into a divine plan far beyond our comprehension. Abishag could not have foreseen the full impact of her service, but her quiet faithfulness aligned her with a purpose greater than herself. We often take for granted the small roles we play, but remember that God never takes anything for granted. Like Abishag, you may not immediately see the value of your loyalty and devotion, but trust that God is weaving those actions into a bigger, more beautiful picture. Every tiny thread is necessary to make a durable carpet. Even when you feel forgotten or unimportant, remember that you are contributing to His perfect plan. So have you ever experienced a moment where a small action of yours created a huge change? Share that story with us in the comments. You might be an inspiration to someone who needs to find the light. Continue to listen to God's Word every day so that He can guide, support and complete what He has started.